This is rocket stove number 2. This is made out of cinder blocks, super easy to build. It took me a little bit of thinking and planning to figure out the best design. You get a benefit from it.
Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene.
And I'm Jonathan. Today we're doing the second in our series of rocket stove videos. The rocket stoves are just a super efficient way to cook, and a lot of them are things that you can just find around your house. Like the first one that we did was bricks, that we had a little pile of bricks. We turned it into a rocket stove. Today we have a few cinder block laying around, so we decided to do that.
But today is a little bit different because Jonathan and his engineer mind is always working to perfect things. But there are a couple things that I want to talk about rocket stoves. One is that during any type of emergency, fuel is probably going to be very precious, and you want to make sure you don't waste your fuel. Yeah. The difference between using a rocket stove and an open fire is you use significantly less fuel to be able to cook your food. So it, like Jonathan said, it is truly more efficient, and it is very inexpensive. A lot of times you can build just using things like we did with the bricks that we found around. So this is the second in the series, and Jonathan spent a lot of time with his engineer mind, just letting it roll around and perfecting the design. And so you get to benefit from all of his brain power.
Yeah, and you'll see some of the things that I tried to do up front and didn't really work out. So let's get started here. This is one of the block that I had to do some modifications to. But before we get going into that, I want to mention, make sure that you have safety equipment. Now, I know somebody's going to call me out because I was using shorts when I did this. Probably shouldn't have, but I can't give up my shorts. The other thing you need, when you cut this block, it creates a huge amount of dust. You need a dust mask to keep from sucking all that into your lungs. I wore safety glasses as well as a face shield. So the safety glasses especially to protect my eyes, but the face shield just to keep any debris from lodging in my face, which I don't want to have happen. So the tools...
You've got such a handsome face.
Oh
such
dear.
A handsome face.
Off we go. Here we go. And then I used just my angle grinder with a masonry blade in it. And that worked to get about 2/3 of the way through these cuts. I loved using this because it was really fast to get about 2/3 of the way through, but I couldn't get all the way through because that blade's not big enough.
And we should say the first time he thought he could just knock it out, right?
Yeah.
That he could just knock it out when it was cut that much with a hammer, but it cracked the whole block.
Yeah.
So see, we learned. So the hammer thing didn't work for us.
Right. It's part of that learning process. So to get the rest of it, I used my Sawzall with a masonry blade on, and that worked really, really well. I did the first part in probably 10 seconds with this, 10 or 15 seconds. This took a minute or two to get through the rest of it, but it worked and it got the job done. So that's how we cut these blocks, and this is really the only hard part about it, and it wasn't really that hard.
Okay, wait, he says it wasn't that hard, but for him. But for me, I probably would have done something different because I'm very intimidated. When I was watching him do it, I was very intimidated. So, but this only has to be done once. So right. If you are somebody like me, you can get somebody like John or a neighbor or somebody who is not intimidated by it to make the simple cuts, and then you have it forever.
Let's talk about how we built this thing, and I'll show you just how fast it comes together.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your design though.
Okay, in the first design, I'm using the same block, but for the bottom, I thought, well, okay, let's just cut out the ends of this one. So I cut out the front of the block that's going to be the real fire chamber. So I cut out the front. This one I thought, okay, I'll put this one underneath with a grill on top, which is not a bad idea, but...
Because you were thinking airflow and you were thinking about ease of cleaning up the ashes, right?
Yeah, I was thinking we'd have airflow coming in here and then just use my shop vac to clean out the ashes here. Not a bad idea, probably still okay, but we had a kind of a brisk north wind coming and coming in the front of that. So I had flames coming out the side here, which means I'm losing some heat and also possibly a safety issue. So as much fun as this was and the thought process, I think I'll not use this one, and we'll just go with a regular block. Okay, so let's build this thing. This is the block that I replaced of the one that I was going to do. So that just goes there. this is the fire chamber right here, and that's just going to go on top. So this will be the floor of the fire chamber. Then we just put our third block right there. Now this block right here, I'm shifting it forward about 1/2 inch just to cover this seam, because I don't want a gap there, either to lose heat or to have some flames licking out of there. So I just move that forward just a little bit. And that's it. We've got our chamber here. And this is a big chamber, so I don't think we're going to have any issues with airflow. That was part of my thought with the first design, was I'd have airflow on the side. But this is a big opening. We can have a lot of firewood in there and still plenty of airflow. Then as the final touch, of course, we need a grill. We just happen to have this. We've had this for years, and we had it because we wanted to be able to just set this up, create a little fire under it, and cook on it. But this is just the perfect size to sit on here. And then we still have the airflow out the base. If we were using a griddle on here, we may want to raise it just a little bit. I had cut some little slivers of Cinderblock just to put under this grill, but most of the time you don't want that because you're going to have a pan on here. There's going to be enough airflow either out the sides or around the sides of the pan. So that is an option if you need it. But as we've played with this, this works extremely well. We have a good strong fire going in here and able to cook really well. Okay, let's get this fire started. If I was being a real Boy Scout today, I would shave my own tinder and get everything ready. But I'm just going to use paper. And you can stuff this right down the top here, or you can feed it in from the front. I also like to use lint. I'm an engineer geek, and so when the lint comes out of the dryer, it's like, well, that's good fuel. So I just kind of loosen this a little bit and add some lint to my offerings down there. Then we have these cans of fuel. These were actually cans that people brought old food storage in. And as I'm doing some chopping with the chop saw, I just cut wood that I can put into these cans that are all ready to go for rocket stove use. These are all just about the right size. Sometimes I use a little bit bigger, but this is just awesome to have this fuel. So, as always, we're going to start out with the smallest stuff that we can get. This could be orchard prunings, whatever, and these just get fed into there. And I want to emphasize right here, this is a double-barreled rocket stove, which is really awesome because you can just use one side if you want and just load in one side, or you can do both. Maybe you want to use a griddle on there, maybe you've got two pots you want to use, but we can do with both of this. We've got two barrels we can use, and so we're just gonna get some fuel in there, get this started. Occasionally it takes just a little bit to get it going, but then once you get that momentum, things really start ripping. Let's grab our fire stick here. Okay, so there we've got it going. We're gonna let this just kind of get some momentum, and then we will add some more fuel and start cooking.
Okay, now that he's got it all going, this is my hot water, which we always need, right? And then here we have a little pot of Jonathan's white chili, made yellow through turmeric, and we'll put them on and let them cook. Now, one of the disadvantages that I think there is to rocket stoves is that you have to continually feed the fire. You're gonna need to make sure that it doesn't go out. So it requires some babysitting, but with a very small amount of fuel, you'll be amazed at how quickly we're able to make this all come to a boil and heat up our food or cook our food, whatever you're gonna do.
And let me mention, that's a great job for kids. As long as you give them just a little bit of fire safety training up front, they love it because you push those sticks in and then you keep pushing them in and adding new. And it's actually a great educational thing for the kids, and they can just sit there and feed that fire.
And it's a lot of fun for
and
them.
Keep it going, yeah.
Okay, there's a few things that I don't like about this. While it totally cooked the food, it smells like fire. It's cold out here.
Well, the food doesn't smell like fire, but we smell like fire because that's what outdoor fires are kind of about.
It smells like fire. So it works. It's cold being out here. If I was in a storm, I definitely wouldn't be able to cook out here, right? But for decent weather, this is a great way to use a limited amount of fuel, but I'd much rather be cooking in my kitchen on my Vesta. It's just true.
Yeah.
Okay, and one of the other things you notice, it's got it leaks. It's not tight.
Yeah, those they're not exact, so there's some little cracks.
And it did need to be managed, right? But it totally did the job. My water's boiling and the soup is hot. It's all good.
And just a couple of side notes on getting the fire started. Sometimes that's a challenge, especially when it's cold. But like any Boy Scout or Girl Scout fire, you just have to get it going, and it has to get a little momentum. And once it gets momentum, then it really goes. So it takes a little playing with to figure it out. That's why we practice in advance.
You have to practice in advance. It's a skill.
And as far as fuel goes, orchard prunings, tree prunings, if there's debris from a storm or whatever, there's all kinds of fuel that you can use. I just happen to know a guy that has a door company, and so he had one of his workers bring like a 600-pound bundle of these shavings, all the way from fairly large down to thin, and that's beautiful because we like the thin stuff to get it going, and then the bigger stuff we can put in after it, and it just makes it all work really well. So fuel is abundant, you just kind of have to know where to find it.
Now for the question of the day today. One of the things about this is my whole pot turns black, which is a pain to scrub. So for the question of the day, share your secret to keeping the bottoms of your pots clean and scrubbed without the black getting everywhere.
I think her secret is me. I get to scrub it.
You are always my secret. Hey, thanks for being part of the solution.